apparently we made it all through the death spot of, was it Sarah's death spot? So
is this Second Life?
We could be risen from the dead, I guess. You know what, I was going to say it's impressive how we're all not from Silicon Valley and that we've established these great scalable businesses, all of us, and then you went on to say, oh my God, I had to fit in San Francisco quickly. So give us some hope. Can we build these big crowdsourcing enterprises from not in Silicon Valley? Yes?
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, totally. Do you want the short answer or a long answer? Yes.
Oh, short, yeah, we're on a diet here, so. And everybody agree or what? You're a New Yorker, so you're not really Silicon Valley either, are you?
No, Silicon Valley is a very different place and proud of it.
All right, I'm going to ask a key pivotal question, I think. You guys are putting agencies out of business, right? Are you? Isn't having great platforms for images, for creative, for design, you're putting agencies out of business, are you? This is a good thing too, isn't it?
Agencies use us, so we're making them more efficient in a lot of ways, and so we're not necessarily putting anyone out of business. For us, anyway, I don't know, it might be a little bit different.
No,
are agencies using you guys? That's a good question.
Absolutely. In fact, some of our best customers always have been agencies, which you know, on the face of it might seem surprising, but when you think about it, you know, a lot of what our designers really yearn for, besides, you know, the monetary value of winning a contest, is just, you know, learning and the feedback that you get from entering design contests and working with a real customer. And, you know, who better at giving design feedback than an agency? We often find that, agencies are the best customers on the platform because they're really great at giving feedback. They're really good at writing design briefs and setting up a contest to be successful right from the start. And I think, you know, in terms of the value to an agency, you know, what that means is that they can take some of the smaller tasks perhaps, or the jobs that, or the, you know, the customers that they don't really want to spend a whole lot of time for, and outsource those things to platforms like 99 Designs. And in turn, you know, focus more on the strategic value of clients.
Is there anybody here from the ad agency world? There you are. Is there anybody here from an ad agency? Just wondered if it's. How do you feel about companies like? You do, complimentary. Oh, that's good. We've got a friendly one in the crowd to reply.
Yeah, I mean, if they were going to compete with us head on and put us out of business, like, then we're in the wrong business. Because I mean, and I'm at an agency that really does as much as possible in-house, but there are also other ways where it's not necessarily about outsourcing something, but about engaging more people and you know, just like adding another layer to what we're doing. And so things like, and often the job is really more about getting the brief right rather than just coming up with the best website or the best image or whatever the case may be, so that I think going forward there are going to be a lot more opportunities to work with more companies providing new kinds of value to us. And if we get to the point where it's like they're competing head on, either they've become an agency and I'm not sure they really want to get into that business, or we've gone somewhere that's just not what we're supposed to be all about.
Yeah. Sorry. Great. It was deliberately provocative, but there is a point that says if crowdsourcing becomes a much more popular thing, it's an interesting equation in terms of where all the value goes, right? If you view the pot of value, I think the world has something like, what is it, $700 billion in media. You know, if crowdsourcing becomes very successful, I mean, it's a happy problem, I guess, down the road. You all have creative audiences. We know creative people at the best of times can be moody. Can be, you know, flippant and, you know, perhaps not the most politically correct at times. Is there a magic or a, you know, an art to actually managing creative audiences versus maybe some other type of crowdsourced audience that's more linear in terms of, you know, what needs to get done or their thinking?
That's a great question. I'm happy to answer that. So I don't know about you guys, Jason, but I find that there's a vocal minority that are ones that sit around on blogs and, you know, it's a competition. And I don't know, my kind of feeling is always that the word competition is okay. Like, I'm okay with competition. I think competition's good because you generally get the best outcome with a competitive response. It's actually no different to most industries where you've got, we call ours a tender process, and in essence it's a mini tender. But in terms of managing those verticals, like our issue is that we decline 50% of the people that apply to join our platform. And what's weird is that just on quality, because a lot of people come with pictures of their own, you know, the cats and dogs and stuff, and if we can't sell it, we don't want to put them through the pain of having them submit bad images, and we actually restrict the number of submissions per photographer to each brief, so we give them a 10 limit so that they pick the best ones. But funnily enough, the ones that we turn away, it's generally, they're not the most vocal. It's the guys that, you know, haven't necessarily even been to participate on the platform, but they just have a thing about it, because they don't understand it, they fear it. And we do our best, and I'm sure it's the same with you, Jace, is like we do our best to try and educate. Well, these are the principles behind it, and this is how it works, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, so I don't know. What about you, man?
Yeah, I mean, look, from the point of view of our design community, you know, there's absolutely, you know, people on there that are pretty hard to please. And yeah, you know, the thing about design, you know, I mean, if you're a designer, you're probably going to have an opinion on something, right? Or, you know, on anything. And, you know, in fact, even just thinking about, you know, I probably shouldn't say this, but even just thinking about the staff that we employ, you know, designers are definitely a tough bunch to manage. Any designers in the room? Before I start going down this path. Yeah, look, I mean, designers have a tough job, you know, like when they design something, when they design a logo, when they design a website, when they design a new part of 99designs.com, you know, they're effectively putting a bit of their soul, a bit of their heart on a piece of paper or on a screen. And then, you know, guys like me come along and say, no, that's crap, or it's not going to work, or, you know, it looks terrible.
No, it's, I mean, people must be heartbroken when the decision comes down on crowd designs. You've lost, right? And you know it must be a good design.
Eliminated, yeah, totally.
I mean, somebody did ask me at break time, it's like, you should ask this panel question, so this is interactive and crowdsourced, I guess. They say you get 100 designs or whatever, and 80 might be crap, but then there are 20 good ones and you choose the one. And his point was, well, could you do anything with the 19 remaining ones? Like, is there any kind of second universe of value that's there that, you know, you could still work with that? So I think it was a general question. Do you have any thoughts in terms of the consolation prize people?
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, this question came up from a designer within our community probably a couple of years after we launched 99designs.com. We gave it a lot of thought. And so we actually created a product called the Ready-Made Logo Store a couple of years ago for exactly this purpose. Nice. You know, you have a lot of logos that get submitted to any one logo contest. Only one gets picked as the winner. You know, designers were asking for a way to monetize those logos that they had created. So what we did was we built a store where a different kind of customer, the kind of customer that wants to see a logo before they buy it, can effectively, you know, go through the shelves or do a search for blue accounting logo, look at some logos, and then have it customized for them with their name within 24 hours.
Yeah, so the Acme box of logos.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Questions from the crowd? And David, you're about to say something.
Well, I'll add something while we get these questions in. We actually did a program with Craft with a very small site, like a brother-sister run site called They Draw and Cook. And so just people who illustrate recipes and have fun doing it and submit things to contests, so very focused, really small property. And Craft was like the first big national brand to do a campaign with them, so really cheap for Craft, but the value they were able to provide that community, both in the brand and the prize money, was ridiculous compared to what had been offered before. And there were something like 150, 175 submissions on various themes. I mean, it was more like 90% were really good, and you know, 10, 20% were absolutely amazing. The quality, especially, was so focused, and I mean, the winners, and then even some that weren't the winners, wound up lining Kraft's walls in their new offices when they renovated their headquarters. They used them repeatedly, even months later, on their website and things like. So they kept tapping into that, and it was like, yeah, the winner got more out of it, but Kraft was. I mean, they were pretty touched by the quality that they got out of it, so they wanted to just find other ways to use this stuff.
Yeah, very cool. I love that. Questions?
Yeah. Basically, I feel that crowdsourcing, in fact, the experience from 99 design using its competitive element is introducing what we call radial of efficiency to the marketplace, because very often when we go to in our own local efforts to look for designs, you have a very limited approach. I think by having this competition, we draw out a great deal of talent. It's just like, the I Got Talent series. You're giving exposure to a broad array of talent, and even those who do not win the ultimate prize, sometimes people who will come up in the finals, they get to win. So, it's just like even the X Prize. You pose a very difficult problem and give a nice pot of gold, and the very challenging nature of this problem falls in a lot of creative mind to achieve this final goal. So I think this duty from crowdsourcing is now you can virtually sift out. There are people with real talent, and here when we have a competition, you're able to draw out very good designs. So in a way, even if you have only one winner, the people with good talents can also, in a way, be featured, so that it's also like an advertising medium for those who participate.
It's kind of a meritocracy of, this is a pure form of competition. You've all taken a competitive posture. I guess you could have, at the start, taken a different means of doing open source design. You've decided the competitive approach. Is it validated by your years of experience?
I guess we didn't, the designers did, back in the forum thread, that was just the way they approached it. They wanted to compete. All we did was put the tools and processes around making that an efficient process.
One of the things that we not struggled with, but don't know whether we've got completely right yet, is whether some photographers want to see other people's entries, and at first we let them see everybody's entries, and so that was kind of open. But then you'd have photographers say, here's his crap. Let's get him out. And so we think, okay, well, do we let the photographers moderate each other, maybe, and kind of vote on each other's images? I don't know. And so then we removed that, and we thought, well, in the real world, what happens if you're a photographer and somebody asks you for your shots? You'd send them in, but you wouldn't get to see what else they're putting in. And so we removed it. And now they can only see their own. And then they complained and said, well, we want to see the other people's. And so we're like, so now what we do is we show them the shots that have been shortlisted by customers from other photographers and not everything else. And at least that kind of guides them, right? So the competition is interesting. Some of them hate it. They're just like, I don't want to see it. And others are just like, okay, I want to see everything before I bother to play. So again, it's different strokes, right?
Yeah, well, it's different approach, but we also, it's like I feel that on that very visceral level where it's like, we always want to see what else, what the competition's doing, and then but it's very rare that the clients give us that kind of full access to it. But there is something to letting the client be that arbiter there, and it's like if they want to make it more open, okay. If not, then those are the rules.
You have the concept of is it blind contest?
Blind contest, yeah.
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 But that's to protect the designer, is it? Because it's it's probably easier to rip off another design. No, if you've got great Photoshop skills, as opposed to it's a little bit different with photography.
Yeah. I mean, this is in response to some designers, particularly with web design, which is a pretty involved kind of form of design. Like a logo design. Like a good logo designer can kind of spend 30 minutes, maybe an hour, maybe a couple of hours, knocking up a logo. Whereas a website, definitely takes a lot of thought and a lot of process putting into it. Like we would at times have a client ask for, or give feedback to one particular client, and then all of a sudden what you would see is, 3 or 4 designers all of a sudden, lunge towards producing websites or designs that, were very similar in a lot of ways because they were just following the lead from the client in terms of what they wanted. And so we gave blind contests a try, so effectively flipping the switch and turning it from a contest where everything's open to a contest where everything's closed. And so, we still have that option within our marketplace, and we effectively leave it up to the customer to decide which one they prefer.
Cool. Questions? Any questions? Good. Over here.
So I think, Dave, you mentioned that you see crowdsourcing to be complementary to user agencies. So as a brand, how should we be planning to use crowdsourcing versus engaging an agency? What should be the strategy?
The relationships that we have with brands are so varied, and we're just one agency. So a lot of that is really for. The best brands we have are the brands that are strong leaders and say, this is how we're going to involve different agencies. This is how we're always involved with other agencies, whether it's traditional or others doing digital work together. And so that strong leadership goes a really long way. And we want to be a co-leader with you in that regard, but a lot of that's like, some of it could just be that need to get other ideas out there and to motivate us to kind of seek things beyond our walls and come up with a framework. And some of it may well be trying to suggest, well, maybe for this one piece of it, like some agencies will take great offense to this idea, no doubt. You have some like high ego creative in the room. They don't want to crowdsource anything. It's like all them. But it's often just trying to figure out where are those areas where it could make sense to involve more of a community. And I think using it as a way, it's like in that craft example where just the brand felt so good to see a lot of that love for the brand out there that I think it couched in those terms, it's less personal.
We had a question here.
Yeah. What we're thinking of competition versus collaboration, and I think the new economy where we see a lot of platforms which foster collaboration. I would like to ask you, in that time, how do you think about the idea of maybe thinking on collaboration and allowing functionalities for collaboration in an design? For example, imagine a guy put a logo, and then after a second phase, people could collaborate on like a 3D logo or other colors or other effects. Like you can see like in platforms like OpenIDEO, which is totally collaborative, or Quirky.com. And I see really in the web lots of collaboration getting more and more. And so how do you think about that, and if you plan to do something about that?
Good question. So I guess, we haven't seen it a lot in the field of graphic design. We have a community of graphic designers, and, we could, of course, and we get asked time and time again, you guys do crowdsourcing, are you going to apply it to industrial design or product design or, all of these different kinds of design? And for us, our community is 225,000 graphic designers, and that's where we want to be, field of graphic design. And I don't think you often get cases where designers collaborate on a graphic design project. A logo, it's very seldomly designed by a bunch of people. And even, again, thinking of the designers that we have in-house, most of the time it's a single designer that has a vision for a feature they want to implement on the site or, a particular page of the website. They get, feedback from other people, but most of the time it's just one person kind of implementing the vision that they have in their head. So, you know, at the moment we don't have plans. Yeah, it'd be an interesting thing to explore though.
You've just given me a great business idea. Yeah, it's funny because we get a lot of agencies ask us for moving imagery as well, like to support campaigns. There's probably an opportunity there somewhere for photographers potentially to create some moving imagery around. Yeah, if it's a shot of the Norwegian landscape like you saw earlier, or photographers in Tuscany and they want to take some shots and also produce some imagery for the iPad version. So there's probably some in there. Thank you. What's your name? I forget your details afterwards. No. I think it's an interesting idea though, because ultimately, I mean, we have a customer of 99 Designs as well.
You probably know Quirky.com,
Yeah.
right? It's amazing because the designers have ego, a lot of ego, and it's good because they want to do their own creation. But I think the collaboration can really push things farther, you know? And even with a logo that sometimes might be simple, but can really develop a very complex thing, it's good to have space for collaboration, I really think. And it's good because several people can earn money as well from it. If you can track, and in the internet it's easy to track each collaboration that each person did on the development of the logo.
Yeah.
So it's a logo.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good idea. Like there's platforms, I mean, if you look at the communities that have taken a community first as opposed to a commerce first, I'd say we're kind of commerce first because we're enabling transactions. But if you look at Dribble, which is interesting, 500 pics, like they've basically taken a community first. There's a lot of social tools, collaboration, you can comment on each other's work. I think that's really interesting. I think 500 pics are probably they've gone into portfolios now, and they're doing some interesting things around portfolios and storage for photographers. And maybe they'll end up going down the stock photography route as opposed to just downloading for, you know, background images and stuff. But I think that community and collaboration, I think, is a really interesting area. And we just haven't touched the surface of this yet. Like, this is just so early days. I think we'll look back in 5 years and just go, wow, I remember how basic things were, and then all of a sudden. But I've always thought right from day one, creatives that are like acquiring creative work such as whether it's design, music, illustrations. There's definitely space for a number of creative communities, and ultimately they will probably merge in some way and become more collaborative. I think the thing is, somebody said to me the other day, how do you manage quality? Because quality is kind of like the Achilles heel of crowdsourcing, right? If you get that signal to noise ratio wrong. It's a little bit like a party, in that if you turn up and all the booze and the music is crap, no one's going to come back to your party, right? And so you need great music, and you need great beer or wine. And so the only way to manage that when you start is by focusing, right? Like on having your designers and us with our photographers, and I think over time there'll be opportunities to piggyback. One of the things I do know, like with photographers, is that they're needing to work out a way of differentiating themselves, and so they're now getting into learning and experiment with other things like moving imagery, and I think that will probably happen potentially maybe with designers and stuff as well.
I'm going to try to keep us on time here, so I'm going to give you guys one last kick-a-cat question thing to leave to the audience. I guess it's a two-parter. Where is this all going? So we're going to go into the year 2017. So the 2017 David, Jason, and Simon. You're all talking to the 2013 David, Simon. What are you giving yourself advice to in terms of your own company and where the industry's going? God,
I'm hoping I'm on a beach in Mexico with a big drink and not worrying about it anymore. No, I don't mean that. No, we've bought Getty Images for $1 billion. I don't know, like, when you say where is it going, like for me, this is a really simplistic way of looking at it. I don't think we'll ever have to search for anything ever again. I think search will be dead. There's my kind of tweetable thing. So come to me, like, you sit there with an app, and whatever it is you want, you just say, you either speak or type or whatever it might be. We're experimenting with something called Voice Brief at the moment, where creatives can actually just say what they want. Hey, I need an image of a blah, 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 boom, and I've got to get it to look like that, and then distribute that voice file out to some photographers rather than typing it, right? So for me,
it's like Siri for everybody.
Siri for creators, right? So I mean, ultimately, I don't think you'll ever have to look for any. Like if I need something, like in New York, you sit. Is Uber here? Like I'm a big fan of Uber. I sit there, I press a button, I can see the cab arriving. You know, you've got Amazon Prime now, things arrive in a day. I just don't, and I think that's, you're crowdsourcing, right? I just think everything will come to you. So without search, I just think search will be dead. Looking for stuff will be gone. You'll just say what you want and it will come to you.
David, what's going on in your world?
Yeah, I think it's really the advice from future David will, to myself and my peers, will really be about just letting go of fear. Don't let fear be the reason stopping you from embracing all what's going on with crowdsourcing. It's like, to use a local reference, with the I fly indoor skydiving here. So did this within hours of when my plane landed. Now, there are good reasons not to do it, like you might be pregnant or have a broken leg or something. There are things that would actually prevent you from doing so. And okay, there's some legitimate concerns. If it's just you're scared to do it, well, that is, you just have to write that off and go ahead and do it and see how it goes. So a lot of this crowdsourcing stuff is like the I fly indoor skydiving, where you know that, this might be something really transformative, but if you're too scared to just go and let go, those reasons, like, you're going to learn why it works just by doing it, and things are changing so quickly. So it's embracing that, and then I think the brands that do so and agencies that do so are just going to be in a far better position come 2017.
You've got Anchorman. You got the final message here.
Yeah, this is a tough question. I reckon, 4 years on, I reckon we'll see a real boom in freelancing. Obviously, we have what we do today, which is contests, and, things like Elance and Odesk are really kind of starting to take shape, and, a lot of people are kind of turning to those. But I think, in 4 years' time, people will be able to choose, how they want to work. And, it's not only about things like contests, it's, building a portfolio of, people that you want to work directly one-on-one with. And, who knows, we might all be walking around with Google Glass and freelancing while we're walking around on the street. I think, as communications evolve, people will be able to make money in ways that they never thought possible.
Well, all you guys had incredible presentations and stories. Are you guys going to be hanging around for the rest of the day? Okay, so if anybody wants to get these guys, they're around here the rest of the day. We are only 7 minutes off schedule, so try to get you back a little bit. So we're off. Thanks, guys.